Episode number, what does that say there, Pete?
148. Here we go. I'll tell you what, that clapper is something. I think, you know what? It's great to know, John, because otherwise we really wouldn't know how many we've done. 50, 100 or whatever. 148. That's a lot of episodes, man. And I'll tell you what, people are going to be excited very, very soon. Ho ho.
Giddy up.
Jared, I'm telling you, I think we've opened up the Pandora's box of a monster, John.
I think so. He's getting kind of crazy. Pretty soon he's going to have those same buttons, you know, like the other guy on CNBC has, Pete. Welcome to the Rebel's Edge, folks. This is our final Rebel's Edge of the week. We do them Monday through Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Jared handles the sound effects, the graphic, the dancing robots, all of that stuff. And Pete and I are just here to look good.
Yeah. Oh, that ain't happening.
Well, let's talk about the macro minute, Pete.
Let's
because macro minute today, I think we'd be hard pressed to find anything that's working the markets in a negative way more than these regional banks, because you've got, WAL, you've got PacWest, both just getting clocked. And we've had unusual activity in both. And both have had a little bit of a recovery today, Pete, but they were down 40% for a while today.
Yeah. You're exactly right, John. I think post-Fed, you want to shift over and get back towards earnings, right? We've gotten over the Fed. We've heard about it. We saw what happened yesterday, the big turn in the market, sold off. But today, again, sold off, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing. And the regional banks certainly are the ones. And I would also point this out, John. Starting off the day, markets were kind of a little bit more calm. And the financials were definitely down. They were down about 0.5%. Next thing you know, we're down a couple of 100 points, 300 points, 400 points. And what's really the driver? Well, I looked over at financials, down 2%. I mean, that speaks volumes about what we're seeing. And to your point, the volume yesterday, these idiots, and they are idiots, and I'll say it out loud across the world, that say there's no such thing as unusual option activity. Well, okay, that's great line, except for the fact that how about yesterday, John, when we had 10 separate unusual option activities in the regional banks across the board, from PacWest to Key to whatever you want to come up with, they were buying it in the regional. So certainly that is, I think, what's the focus of the macro minute.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that we've got, these regional banks imploding, Pete. But again, not wholly unexpected. They had that nice bounce that we talked about, all of them except the one I won't mention, FRC. I'll mention the symbol, not the bank. And it ain't there anymore anyway. So, but
now it's part of the big bank.
Yeah, now it's part of a really, really big bank. Thanks a lot, Jamie Dimon.
Yeah, way to go,
Generous
Jamie.
as always with his let's talk, Pete, about fantastic futures.
Fantastic futures.
There it is.
Well, I'm going to go with crude oil, Pete. You usually hit crude. I'm going to hit it today because, my God, Pete, it broke down all the way, believe it or not, folks, to below 64 and then came screaming back. Right now, I've got a live ticker running, Pete. I'm showing it at 68, 67. So it's back into positive territory ever so slightly on the session. But, oh, my gosh, they were slam dancing on this one.
Yeah, it's amazing, John, the move that we've seen out of that. It's returned all the way back to the pre-OPEC cuts. I mean, it's crazy. It's surprising. I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you, again, gold and silver, and here's why. If you take a look at Tuesday, John, when you take a look at where was silver, it's trading about 25. Today, over 26. You look over at gold, and you could see around 2,000 on Tuesday. Today, 2,060. Both are up today. At least they were up last I looked. Now that changes but in a flash. But I will tell you, people are looking for other areas within the market. Where's something maybe safe, something that they're looking for, an alternative, whatever it might be. And we are seeing gold and silver having a pretty violent move over the last couple of sessions.
I love gold.
Oh,
We created a monster.
well, like we said, though, crude oil back into positive territory by about 7 pennies. Gold, a full percent. Well, I think 1.1%, Pete. It's 20.60 and 30 cents right now. Gold is. All right. Let's, Pete, dive into the stocks because there's a lot to talk about here. Cloud play and data play. DataDog, their first quarter earnings came in at 28 cents adjusted. That's up 16%, double digits from a year ago. Not so bad. And they forecast profit of 28 cents versus 26. So if you can beat top line, bottom line, and beat the estimates going forward, you're going to trade up. And even on a bad day in the markets, DDOG is no dog today, Pete.
No, DataDog actually came through all the way, John. They crushed it, as you said. They beat it on the earnings by a significant amount, 16% year to date, higher. You also had 33% on the revenue side. That was a big number. How about the fact that the stock was just trading $65 yesterday, not too far away from the 52-week lows, John, which is 61, goes all the way up to 124. So it has made a move today, a big move, got up there towards 75, 76, somewhere in that territory, but a long ways still from those 52-week highs. And I like the fact that the guidance was there as well, John. They absolutely hit the cover off the ball. They did everything right. Now they just have to continue because they've got a great balance sheet. Everything is there. Not a huge short interest, which maybe you'd expect to have, but we're still getting a really big move today, I think, for all the right reasons.
Yep, 15% to the upside, folks. DataDog. And the volume today, double normal. It's already done 11 million shares. Normal is 5.2 million. So congratulations, another tech stock that's doing pretty well, Pete. Yep. All right, let's take a look at Shopify. Shop, which is selling their logistics business, Pete, and they're downsizing the workforce. Those are two things that get people kind of giddy, at least short term, about the stock. Basically, they reported Q1, they lost a penny instead of losing 4. So they're still losing money. So Pete's not going to be happy about that. But the revenue was 1.5 versus 1.4. So they're beating top line, bottom line, selling logistic assets. That's why the stock's up what it's up, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely, John. An amazing move to the upside today. I saw it up as much as something close to 28%, something like that. I mean, it hit new 52-week highs today as well. You look at the volumes. Geez, John, first 90 minutes, it was 3 times normal volume. But across the board, you hit it. They hit it out of the park and everything that they needed to, including when you look over at the merchandise volume. That was another big one. That was up 15%. So there was every single box that you needed. They checked it off. That's why we're seeing the move that we're seeing. And these guys are going to be profitable. I think they're going to start making money. They're also getting a lot of cash. That's a great deal, John, the selling. It was something they were not able to really get their arms around properly when you're talking about the logistics side of it. I think that's something that's going to be helpful for them. Now they can focus directly on their business a lot more. It's going to be very interesting going forward. I think this is a stock that you can be very bullish on despite this massive move today.
Yeah. Obviously Shopify doing a lot of things right with the stores the same way Amazon does, Pete, because I think most of us realize, especially if you're a Prime, and most of us probably are Prime members, there are a lot of ma and pa shops on Amazon and on Spotify. They both encourage it. And that's where the growth is for these guys. Because again, you're taking a spiff for basically somebody else running everything for you, sort of like Apple does. And they've got earnings after the bell. All right, Pete, Carl Icahn. So he was chugging along. Shares were $52. And in April, we had unusual option activity. And when we have unusual option activity, Pete and I don't just talk about it, we trade it. So in this one, IEP, as you can see, if you look at that top chart there, that's showing directly from our blog in April that they were buying these puts, the January 45 puts. And take a look where the stock was, over $52 a share. Now, flash today, it traded down to $28.30. I put out a video, Pete, for the doctor's prescription that your wife named for us. I put out a prescription that said, guys, don't be pigs, roll down. From 52 down to 28.30, you got to take it off the table, roll down. If you still think that Hindenburg, because this is because of Hindenburg research, if you still think they're right, fine, but take money off the table. Pigs get slaughtered, and you don't want to be a pig. So that's my advice, Pete. And so far it's working out because the stock's rebounded almost $4 off the low.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, John, I mean, you're talking about discipline. That's what we talk about all the time, particularly in the options world where you've got to have discipline because there is a time frame. There's a lot of different things that are constraints. Obviously, you do get the leverage, though, and the leverage there, you were talking about 10 X's the other day. I'm thinking there's quite a few X's in this one as well, John, to the downside, and they've made that money. It's been a fantastic trade. I'll say this, too. When you look at Hindenburg, John, that's a short seller. They're an activist. That's what they do. They actually use the words Ponzi-like, which is a very, very interesting thing. I don't think a lot of people want to say it. I didn't say it. I'm just repeating what they said. And it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting quote. I'll tell you what, when you see all this money that's sloshing around and some of the different things that are going in terms of dividends and all the rest of it and how that's all been, the numbers are working within IEP. I'll tell you what, John, I think rolling out of what you've made money on, but it doesn't mean that you need to be done. I think there are ways to maybe try to position yourself to still compete, maybe to the downside. I know we've got a little bit of rally off the lows. I think that might be an opportunity because things might not be all that rosy in the future for this name.
Yeah, got to think so because Hindenburg, my hat's off to them. They do a great job, Pete, with just like Citron. A lot of people mistakenly just think that a short seller is just trying to talk their book. There are few things tougher than being a short seller and then having the whole rest of the world that's long come and fight you. But if you make the good argument and you have some solid evidence behind you, people tend to say, well, at the very least, I'm getting out of my longs here. Maybe I've never traded a short. And of course, Pete and I have with puts. But if you've never traded a short, it can be scary. So it's not like everybody can just go out and be this great short seller. You've got to do your homework. And apparently, even Carl is thinking that things are a little tough for his IEP right now.
Yep.
All right, Pete, let's get into some sports, shall we?
No, we're doing Planet Fitness, man. What are you doing?
Oh, yeah, dang it.
Holy
Planet
crap.
Fitness,
You do this to us all the time for crying out loud. What's going on?
I do. And one of the reasons, Pete, was that I was working out with a guy today.
Yep.
And he was telling me that his buddy owns 8 Planet Fitnesses. And I was thinking, I really have no idea. You know, I know how they can make money. They could, because if you're a black card holder, which is what I am, Pete, and I think what you are too.
Yep.
It's $22 a month. I can use any club anywhere. And I get all the equipment. I can get the massage chairs. I can get the red light therapy. If you choose to, you can go in and get tanning, but you know, I've got the sun right outside here, so I don't need that. But I don't know what they sell that causes them to be a great franchise, Pete. You know, they must get a spiff from every time somebody flashes their code to prove that they're a member, either a regular or a black card member. But man, these numbers were not good. They missed top line, bottom line, and the stock trades down double digits.
Well, they did miss, John. You're right. And that is something. It's still up on the year, though. Last year at this time, they were earning 32 cents. This year was 41, but it is a miss against the estimates. But they talked about, last quarter they did have a beat. They had a 53-cent beat over the 47 cents they were looking for. It's really interesting. They've got a buyback. They got 25 million. It's not a huge number. Their revenue growth is strong. They may have missed, but it's still very strong, John. It was up 19%. So there's some positives here as well. I actually look at this one as, hey, look, this is one of these where maybe people are not really fully understanding what's going on because they do show growth. It's just that they didn't quite have the same growth in terms of earnings that maybe was expected. I will tell you this. Here's how they make money, John. At my local one, and I won't say where it is, but it is here in Florida that I go to, how many members do you think is at this single one? Because I actually know the number. How many would throw out an obscenely high number at me? How many people are signed up at that Planet Fitness?
Well, and again, you can sign up online anywhere. That's what I did.
Yep.
And then you can declare a place that's your home, if you will, but you can use any one of them with my membership or yours, Pete. I'm going to say, 1,000 members, maybe
8,000. So that's why they make money, because they've got 8,000 members there. How many really show up? How many people just say, oh, it's only $9 a month. I'll just keep on paying this, even though I haven't been there in 3 or 6 months. I'll just keep on paying. That's how they make money, is these guys get all kinds of folks. And it sounds like it's way too cheap. How could you do $9 a month for a standard, not the black card, but a standard thing? That's why, because people want to go to the gym. They just don't always make it to the gym. So I think there is something to be said about this company still, John. And I think that there's a lot of money to be made. And on a sell-off like this, I certainly am looking at some of the options that are out there that maybe could turn for next quarter.
Yeah, well, again, I got to explore the model more, Pete. I've never considered buying a franchise myself, but, the parent company gets that money, and I don't know how they allocate it. So I've got to explore that. I by my own admission, I'll tell you guys when I don't know something, and I don't know how they do that. I don't know if it's a percentage of the monthly goes to each of the franchisees that show up on that scan. I don't know how that works. So I got to delve into that, Pete, but maybe I should own a Planet Fitness. 8,000 people?
There's a lot of headaches that come along with that, by the way. A lot of headaches, but you do have that franchise. We'll jump
now let's talk about Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and here's what I wanted to explore today, John. It's really early. It's not fair to even go here, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's fun and we get to do anything we damn well want to, right? So, Major League Baseball. Does the payroll really also mean you're going to be a winner? Well, I'm going to show you exactly what's going on so far this year in Major League Baseball. There are 30 Major League Baseball teams, John. The top payroll goes to the Mets, the Yankees, and the Padres, all of which are sitting not at the very top, but they're somewhere underneath the top of wherever they are. Some are in the NL East, some are in the AL East, all that kind of stuff, West, all that. So the Mets, their salary this year, John, and you and I both know Stevie Cohen, and he is a happy, proud man who's willing to pay anything he damn well pleases, right? $353 million payroll for the Mets. $276 million for the Yankees. San Diego's $248 million. That's this year's salaries, right? All neatly put together. Well, Pittsburgh's the number one team in the Central. They got $73 million in salaries. Tampa Bay, number one in their East, and they're $73 million. We've got Baltimore. They're sitting at number two in the East, and they have $60 million as their what they're paying right now on their payroll. Combine that, John, that's $200 million. Now, just to go back, San Diego's paying $248 million, and it goes up to the Mets at $353 million. It gives you a little bit of a sense of how much money the big boys are paying, but who's really getting the payoff right now. And it is an amazing thing. And I will say this, Tampa right now, number one baseball team there is in Major League, 25 wins. They have 6 separate spots in the statistical categories, John, where they sit at number one. They're not just there. They're the number one team in 6 different statistical categories, and they've got a payroll right now of $73 million. So who's making the better trade right now, and what do you think about this? Does this Does this just amaze you that by not having to pay as much that these teams are doing far better even than the guys that are paying the big bucks?
It's basically Pete Moneyball.
Mhm.
And you've got to have guys that are just on it. So for instance, when the Kansas City Royals, one of the smallest market teams in all of baseball,
Mhm.
and generally one of the lower payrolls, they have to be, because you've heard us say it before, folks. Baseball is the only major sport that doesn't share TV revenue. So that's really tough on the small market teams. How do they compete against the Yes Network with the Mets and the Yankees getting all that money from one of the biggest markets in the United States? And the answer is they've got to be smarter. Well, the Kansas City team, Pete, when they won the World Series last time that they did, and then when they've had multiple seasons where they've been extremely competitive, they basically said, you get us to the seventh inning, and we've got the three best closers there are. So
Mhm.
it's kind of turning Moneyball a little bit around, because Moneyball it's a difference between slugging percentage, batting average, hitting for home runs, and all that. It's okay, how do you hit when somebody's on base? How many times do you advance that runner and get the run?
Mhm.
In the case of pitching, you're talking about elimination or not giving up runs. And they had a really scary statistic, Pete, when Kansas City won last time. And that's the Kansas City Royals, not the Kansas City Chiefs, folks. We're talking baseball. But when the Kansas City Royals won last time, Pete, they had three people coming out of the bullpen that were closers, and they shut people down. It was less than 5 losses if they led going into the seventh inning that year, because
Yeah.
these guys just shut people down. So you've got to do one or the other. Either you've got to have players that are willing to give themselves up and advance runners and get runs, just chip away at it, or you've got to have a reliever or a relief bullpen that can absolutely slam the door. If you've got the lead, you're going to win. And that's so frustrating for the guys like Stevie that are paying, $500 million in salaries.
Yeah, it is amazing. All right, we're going to jump. Last time I'm going to do this, I think, but maybe
Huh?
not. Green Bay East, known as the Jets, 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 right, John? So they
Yep.
added another guy from Green Bay. So it's just an amazing thing what Aaron Rodgers, he had a wish list out there, right? They didn't get them all, but so far, John, they've got Alan Lazard. They got a quarterback in Tim Boyle. They got the offensive tackle I mentioned yesterday briefly about Billy Turner. And now they got Randall Cobb. So the wish list is getting filled up. The other two that he mentioned have gone to Baltimore already, so that's not going to happen. But it's been an amazing process to watch, John, just to see the influence of Aaron Rodgers on this team and the excitement of the young players. I mean, so many guys we're hearing about, John, that are coming up to him in the locker room wanting to take pictures with him, wanting to talk to him, telling him how much they've watched him over the last 20 some odd years since he's been in the NFL and they were children, right? So the whole thing is really, really interesting. I love what they're doing. I think it actually makes some sense. I think they can be done now. I think they've got enough guys from Green Bay on the team. I think Aaron will be very, very comfortable. But I will tell you this, John, the other thing that he's got that he used to have long ago when they made more of that Super Bowl runs, tight ends. They've got Conklin, who came from the Vikings, who's been there now a year or two. He's extremely good. They got Uzuma, who came from the Cincinnati Bengals, who's outstanding. But after the Super Bowl run, he got moved over there through free agency. And you and I talked about him yesterday, but I think this Zach Kuntz kid could really be a splash, because tell me what safety is going to be able to go man-to-man on this kid at 6'8", 255, running a 4.5 40. I think that guy can stretch that defense and make them really pay for it. And I think Aaron Rodgers knows that. He knows how to get the ball to the tight ends. I think this team is really, really a little bit closer every day to being a potential Super Bowl team, John.
Well, I find it interesting, Pete, and I'm sure the listeners know that Pete and I are all about real performance. Doesn't matter sex, doesn't matter race. It's the performance of the person that we're talking about here. And it was funny, Pete, that just because Aaron Rodgers didn't get vaccinated, and that was known, by the way, that was known, he had to wear, like I do, but these aren't that, but he had to wear a red wristband, Pete, as did at least one or two other players on the Packers, because they refused to get vaccinated. He refused to get vaccinated because he has a health condition that his doctors advised him not to get that vaccination. You can say, oh, that's BS, or you can say, wow, maybe that is real and he really, did it for all the right reasons. And the whole team knew. All of the people covering the team knew. And now, Pete, after the fact, people still hate him. The vaxxers absolutely hate him because he was anti-vax, they said. And he said, I'm not telling you shouldn't get it. I'm saying I can't get it. But anyway, it's funny that people want to, redo history, Pete, because here's a guy that, like you always say, show me the performance. I don't care about how you do at the combine. I mean, I care, but it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be the determining factor. It should be, oh, you started for 3 years at Alabama or at Georgia or at Ohio State with the toughest competition in the world, and you started and starred in that system. Why do I need to have you run a 40 and do bench press and vertical leap? Because I already know you can do those things, or you wouldn't have been starting at that position with that much competition. So long-winded explanation, Pete, but Aaron Rodgers has won 1 Super Bowl, I realize just one, and 4 MVPs, 2 back-to-back, Pete. So all of a sudden people are sour on him because of vaccination and because, oh, well, he does, some of these weird things in the off season and he dates all these supermodels or Hollywood starlets or whatever. And it's kind of like, well, you're just jealous, I guess. And the fact that this guy's got four MVPs, Pete. I mean, how many MVPs does Brady have?
Right.
Because he doesn't have 4 MVPs, Pete.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers is one of the best that's ever played. He might not be the GOAT. That might have to be Tom Brady because he's got those 6 rings. But Aaron Rodgers is one of the best, and there's a reason the Jets are so excited, and their fans should be so excited about this year. So congratulations, New York. You finally got a quarterback. And after Joe Namath, it's been a little bit of a drought for the Jets. I know you had Eli Manning, but he played on that other team. Same stadium, different team.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's amazing. He's an amazing guy. And because of the fact that maybe he didn't have the greatest people around, maybe he didn't have the greatest defense around him, and yet you look at what he was able to accomplish, I think it's pretty miraculous, because I would challenge a lot of people with this, and I do this all the time, John. Okay, who is his receivers? Who are his running backs? If you can tell me that, then that's something. But most people have no idea, which tells you even more about how good is this guy. When you can't name a receiver or a running back who was with the MVP, I think that says a lot about how good the guy really is and how he spread the ball around and how their offense flourished underneath him.
And Pete, how many times do you got to see him, scramble around and then just launch one 60, 65 yards and put it right on the guy's hands? How many times do you have to see that before you just go, okay, that's something pretty special right there?
Yeah, he is, for sure.
Folks, we appreciate you. We hope you make some money in the markets, or at least avoid losing money in the markets, because a lot of people are losing on big down days like this. So be disciplined, and then be disciplined about joining us on Monday, because Pete and I will be back Monday for another Rebels Edge.